Hello friends, and welcome back to Malicious Compliance Stories. Let's start our video with a story about a driver who decided to teach a lesson to someone blocking 2 gas pumps. But before we begin, best way to support our channel is to leave comments, like, and subscribe with the turned on bell so you don't miss the new video every single day. Here we go. Blocking 2 pumps at the gas station and giving a finger? Okay. The story of backing up in the gas station reminded me of one of my own, when an a-hole driver in front of me took the second closer pump in the line while the first one was free, so I'd have to wait until he finishes and pays while the other pump in front of him would be free for the whole time. All the other lines were taken too, but no other cars in line. The station was actually quite empty otherwise. It was late in the evening. So it was double so infuriating to wait on a nearly empty station unnecessarily. Honked at him to move to the pump in front, but he gave me a finger. Later noticed he had some lady inside the car. Maybe a date he wanted to impress and assert dominance. I don't know. So if you want to play it this way, it was actually possible to back up, go around through a lane for large trucks. There was no truck at the time, but I couldn't use the pump because the hose noses are thicker, and pull back to the free place in front of the guy. But I made sure to back up very sloppily. It wasn't convenient and easy to back up there after all, to the extent the guy would have no way to go around me. And then I took my sweet time. I took a full tank, obviously, also putting the additive first and not hurrying at all, quite the opposite. When I finished filling the tank and went to pay, the guy was already back in his car, but couldn't go as he had to wait for me to clear the space. Also, the previously free line for large trucks was blocked now. A truck came, so he couldn't get around like I did previously. So he had to wait, and boy, had he waited. Unfortunately for him, I also needed to use the bathroom, also taking my time, plus was in need to buy some snacks, so I had to go back to the counter again. I heard some honking from the outside already halfway in my trip, after like 5 minutes, but it still took me about another 5 minutes to complete everything I needed to do to get back to my car. I actually checked that no one was waiting behind him, just the guy waiting for me, the other lane still being blocked, but the station otherwise quite empty. I then walked slow to my car, of course, had to put the snacks to the proper place and adjust my seatbelt properly before leaving. At this time, the guy was honking constantly, but still couldn't get around. But I actually didn't give him a finger like he did before, as I thought it wasn't even necessary at this point. The cherry on top was that there were traffic lights at the exit from the station, and I managed to catch just before the red, but the POS had to stop. He couldn't go on the red because of the incoming traffic from the other directions. Which was good, because there might be expected some road rage from his side otherwise, but this way he never caught up and I never saw him again. Petty AF. But I wouldn't go that far. People like him tend to be deranged. Could have had a weapon and lost his mind waiting. Still, I admire what you did. Old man is angry. I found and returned his lost wallet. This happened recently. I live in the downtown area in my city and was walking home from an NFL game on a Sunday afternoon. Near the end of my walk, I noticed a wallet laying on the ground. I picked it up and it contained its owner's state driver's license, credit cards, social security card, not sure why you'd keep that in your wallet, and a few other personal items. Importantly, it contained no cash when I found it. I arrived home, Googled the address from the driver's license, and determined that the owner lived only a few blocks away. I walked to the owner's house. I was in a very nice development where all the houses, including owners, cost between $1 and $2 million. I rang the doorbell and the owner, a man in his 70s who I recognized from his license picture, answered. I told him I found his wallet on my walk back from the game and wanted to return it. He snatched it out of my hand, saying, "Good, now let me see if anything's missing." He proceeded to check his wallet and then said, "Well, you didn't take any of my cards, but where's the $400 that was in here?" I told him honestly that the wallet had not contained any cash when I found it and that someone must have stolen his wallet, taken the cash, and discarded it, or previously found the wallet, taken the cash, and put it back where they found it. Who knows? There are plenty of dishonest and opportunistic people in this world. He proceeded to interrogate me regarding the $400. I simply told him that the wallet was empty when I found it, and he should be grateful that he got his cards, license, and other documents back. He threatened to call the police, and I told him thieves tend to not show up on your doorstep after they rob you, and I'd be happy to speak to the authorities. He went back inside and slammed the door, and I went to the local bar to meet my friends and watch the afternoon football games. There was no justice for our choosing beggar, but I hope whoever pocketed the supposed $400 spends it well. That old man sucks. He was lucky someone honest found his wallet and was kind enough to return it, saving him a boatload of time and effort. And our next story, HR disciplined management. I was working for a decently sized construction company in the UK when I was about 18. It was my first real job since leaving school. The pay wasn't great, to be honest, but I was all in on doing my best. The company made a habit of not paying overtime. In fact, it was a no overtime company. You work 9 to 5, and that's it. This was clear in the contract. My boss at the time must have not had much of a personal life, as he was the guy that sent emails at 1 o'clock, etc. He used to call out of hours all the time on our mobiles, and if I was available, I'd answer. No big shakes there. I would help if I could. The calls were often complete nonsensical, such as, "Tomorrow I need you to do this and that." Everything was urgent. In reality, all of these calls could have waited until the morning. After a few weeks of ignoring the calls, I got dragged in to see him. The conversation was pretty much one way and went, "You're being paid enough to monitor your phone at all times. It could be an emergency. I don't think you're committed. I can find someone else who is," etc. This is where I thought, F it. I'd turn up to work in the daytime and purposely nod off in meetings. I'd also try my best to look distant. The inevitable happened, and HR called me in to see if I was okay. I explained that I'd not been sleeping, maybe 2 to 3 hours a night, as I was monitoring the phone for calls from the boss. They asked why I didn't just turn the ringer really high or put it on vibrate, so I explained I was a very heavy sleeper and had missed the phone on a few occasions, causing the boss to warn me. This stopped immediately, and non-working hours were off limits to casual calls and generic emails. I still work there now and am quite high up in the business, and I still get reminded on occasion that we will work that way because I was falling asleep in meetings. Not proud, but at least we all enjoy a good work-life balance and still perform as a business to the same standard. I think I might have thrown him under the bus a bit, but I did try to discuss once, and it was very much his way or nothing. Wow, a bad boss that can learn, and HR that helped the employee instead of the bad boss. Keep living the dream job. And our next story. Called the police on trespassers. My mom inherited a huge piece of land from her father. The land was originally acquired to be developed into a subdivision, but my grandfather liked it so much that he kept it for his family. He intended it to be a place where all his kids and their kids could build homesteads. However, when he died, none of my mom's siblings really wanted the land, so my mom either bought or was given their shares. I live on my own, but came to visit my mom because, unlike my siblings or other relatives, both my mom and I tend to avoid being around people. There are tons of trails on the property, and I decided to walk on them with my dog and my mom's dog, both off-leash. My mom had occasionally mentioned hearing motorbikes, but had never seen them, so she didn't know if they were on our property and didn't have anything concrete to report to the police. While on one of the trails, a motorbike zoomed past me, almost hitting my dog. I yelled at the rider, but they didn't stop. After walking a bit more, I heard the motorbike again, so I got my phone ready to take a picture. When the rider drove past and saw me, he slowed down and asked what I was doing. I told him I was taking a picture to show the police, who I was just about to call. He quickly sped off. I did call the police, and they said they wouldn't be there for about 45 minutes to take an official report, which was fine, because it'd take me a while to walk back to the main house. By the way, all entrances to the property have clear signs indicating it is private property and that trespassing is prohibited. About 15 minutes later, I was on a part of the trail that parallels a road and was near one of the back entrances. A truck was sitting at the entrance with a different dirt bike in the back. I couldn't tell if someone was in the truck, but I knew it didn't belong to anyone who was supposed to be there, so I took a picture of the back license plate. A guy rolled down the window and asked if I was the same person who said something to his buddy. I said yes, and that the police were already on their way because this was private property and they were trespassing. The guy gave me the finger and drove off. When the police arrived, I explained that while this was the first time I had seen them, my mom had heard motorbikes on the land before. The officer basically told me I was wasting his time reporting such a minor issue, especially since it was Thanksgiving. He said I should let people have their fun. I reminded him that this was private property and these people were trespassing. He shrugged and said, "Well, where do you expect people to ride their bikes around here when subdivisions are taking up all the land?" And our last story. The neighbor. It was 3 a.m. and my entire family was asleep after a long ride back to our hometown. While having one of the most pleasant dreams that involved having expensive cakes and fine wine, it was rudely disrupted by the sound of our family's car alarm, and my father went out to check out what happened. Apparently, our neighbor was drunk and had fallen somehow. He hit our car hard enough for the alarm to activate. The entire issue could have been solved with a simple apology, and everyone could have gone back to their own lives. But if that happened, I wouldn't be telling this story. Our neighbor was known to be a rather proud person and had loudly declared a few times that no one had ever won an argument against him in the past, so it was not surprising when he decided to push the blame onto my father when he realized everyone in my house was watching him. My father tried to talk things out and ask if he needed help, but the possibility of a peaceful discussion was going down pretty quickly when we saw that our neighbor's face was about as agitated as a fish out of water. None of us knew what was going on because as far as we knew, our car was parked in front of our house and there was nothing wrong with that. It also didn't help that our neighbor looked like a centipede that lost 98 legs and could barely stand properly without trying to use our car as support. The conversation went something like this. Father, are you okay? Do you need help? Neighbor looks around. Your car. I fell because of your car. Father, I'm sorry that happened. Neighbor, move your car or I'm calling the police. Father, go ahead. My car's in the right place. While we were waiting for the police to arrive, his outburst had woken up nearly everyone in the vicinity of our small neighborhood, and our neighbor was loudly exclaiming how he was right and how my dad didn't know the rules here because he doesn't live here. My father kept his poker face up all the way until the police came. My neighbor then granted himself a glamorous show of him being arrested in front of everyone with the charge of being a public nuisance for causing damage to someone's property with mischief as well as drunk driving later on after the police found out there was no way he walked home from the bar 30 kilometers away. Although his fall only caused a small dent in the car's boot with slight damage to the paint job, which would have been easily fixed, my father got $1,000 in payment for the damages. We had a great dinner the next day, which consisted of expensive cakes and fine wine. Hey guys, thank you all for watching the video. I'll see you in the next one.